I eat, breathe, and sleep art. It's my whole existence. You are invited to join me on an unforgettable art journey.
We will open your eyes to see the world in a different light. It's not just about art, it's about life. When do you use graphite powder or charcoal powder in your artwork? This is a very important question because when you have drawn your picture and you've got a perfect drawing, you don't want to mess it up with medium that you don't understand. So let's compare apples with apples. I'm starting off by checking the properties of the charcoal. I'm going to put a little bit with a paintbrush on my lid and just work with a little bit of medium. And the importance here is that the powder needs to work with your paper. You can either work with a very, very bad quality paper and not see the properties properly with your medium. The paper that I've used here is Fabriano Artistico 300 grams. It's very good quality paper. And I don't want to test the charcoal or the graphite on paper that I wouldn't use for my subject matter. Therefore, please don't test this on ordinary typing paper if you're going to use Fabriano Artistico paper. Just work on the edges there, work this nicely in. I'm just pushing it around. I'm not pressing very hard because I need that really to go into the paper. Small circles. Get the brush. I'm using a thin brush. And now I'm going to test it with my finger, rubbing it right into the paper. I don't want to remove it from the paper, surely. Just pressing it in, and now I'm taking the paintbrush, working over that, and see if it really stains the paper the way I want it to stain. I'm going to divide the shape into two pieces, take my hand, rub it off, and it doesn't look like it really stains the paper. So that might be a concern. Now, is it the charcoal or is it the paper? At the moment, my belief is in the paper because I know it's a very good quality. Taking a small brush, a very thin brush, so that it actually carries the charcoal nicely to the paper, I'm pressing it into that paper to see if I can get it stained. The next step will be to take a little bit of water and put the water with charcoal and see what that does to my paper. Putting the brush into the water a little bit, just the tip of the brush, put it back in the container where the charcoal is, and let's see what that does to the paper. It looks like it is going to stain it. I found that there was kind of particles lying on top of the paper, and I wasn't very happy with that. Let's just see if it will stain. Perhaps we should work layer over layer and not just expect, let's give the charcoal a chance to work. After laying a few layers, let's go over to the graphite powder. We're going to do exactly the same so that we can compare apples with apples. By just adding the first layer of graphite over the whole block, moving the brush in different directions, making sure that we really put the graphite into the texture of the paper. Press a little bit harder, mixing that right in there, and see if it will release some of the color, and if I can immediately see the different tonal values. When I started with this, my brush was a little bit wet, so it did make an impact on that, but it's not a big issue. I'm changing my brush to a complete new brush, and I want to, let's see. If we do the center again, what's going to happen now if I want to release that graphite and also have my two different shapes? The one is working with a finger, working that again into the paper, and see what this Fabriano Artistico paper does. Does it release? Remember, on that side, I did not use water. It's just the plain powder. So it's important that when we work with a huge project, that we need the graphite to be controlled by us, and not that the graphite control the subject matter. Now let's see what the water does. Again, put the water just on the side of your brush, put it into your container, and take graphite, and let's brush that in. And that actually works because we want a very dark background. The graphite that I'm using there is a 6B. The graphite powder can have a shiny surface, so just be very careful if you rub all the time, but it's exactly the same as when you work with a graphite pencil. If you work with a graphite pencil, you press too hard, then it becomes shiny, and that is exactly what I want to achieve with this brush technique, not to have it as shiny as my graphite pencil going over at the same place to get it as dark as that and damage the paper. The next test is to use an eraser and see how this will release. Let's just make sure that that area is dry. I'm working with my finger, I'm working that charcoal right into the paper. You can immediately see that the charcoal is not as shiny as the graphite. Okay, there goes the eraser. The eraser does not lift that really. It's not bad. Let's see the graphite. Oh, doesn't lift at all. So it completely went into the paper. And it's quite difficult to get that out. Whereas the charcoal actually lifts. And with my finger on there, can you see the shiny part? It's really shiny. So a matte effect will definitely be the charcoal, with a little bit more patience. Take more water, I'm going to cover that up. Just give it a couple of seconds to dry, and then I will use one or two more type of erasers to see how we can manipulate these colors, because when we do the big project, we want to, a good example is if we have a wave with a very dark background and we need to lift out some of the splashes of the water. If we can't lift it out with the eraser, then we'll have another plan. I'll explain that now. So the electric eraser will lift out the charcoal beautifully. Actually brings back all that white again of the paper. The one on the right hand side has got no purpose. It's very light. We can use that for faces. You know, if you have a very soft tonal value on faces, that will work nicely. Using Scotch tape is a very good technique to lift color. Scotch tape is not your ordinary sellotape. Scotch tape, especially if you do the white in the eyes, it will lift out color. It should lift out color. Let's see if that does. It doesn't really work on the charcoal, let's see what the electric eraser now does on the graphite. Lifts out a little bit, but not enough. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that when we work with the seascape with a dark background, we can use masking fluid to preserve the whites, because there's no way that that color is going to be released from that paper. There I'm using the Scotch tape again, lift it up, doesn't really make a difference. So when we use this product, and you've got to make sure that use the right product for the right subject matter. Do not work on a subject matter that's going to take you weeks to work on and use the wrong product. The shape at the bottom right is nice for portrait drawing if you use a paintbrush for very soft, subtle tonal values. And then this is what we've got with charcoal and graphite.